History tells us that the Messerschmitt Me-262 was the first operational jet fighter in history. However, it wouldn't have been too difficult for history to have taken a different course. In 1939, Lockheed was developing its L-1000 jet engine and, along with it, the L-133, which could have been the first jet fighter in the world. While this aircraft never flew, we have the tools available to us to be able to give us an idea of what this aircraft's performance may have actually looked like. The game Flyout is a sandbox flight simulator that applies a robust physics engine to approximate how your own custom designs would perform. But what it also lets us do is build airplanes that never flew and get some idea of how they would have. And for today, we are looking at the L-133 Starjet. The L-133 Starjet was a notional airplane that was being explored by Lockheed and its famed designer Kelly Johnson, who, by the way, would design the P-38 Lightning, the P-80 Shooting Star, the U-2, and of course the A-12 and SR-71 Blackbirds. With a pedigree like that, you know it has to be good. Although Kelly Johnson's major achievements were still in his future. At this time, he had only developed the Lockheed Electra. The Starjet 2 was determined to be too advanced for its time, and thus it was never built, nor ever even entered into production. Thanks to Wikipedia, I have some specs that were a useful place to start. It gives the jet's length at 48 feet 4 inches, or 14.73 meters, and a wingspan of 6 feet 8 inches, 14.22 meters. It also has a 3-view available that I imported into Flyout and then scaled based on length. I was able to use this to get the fuselage and wings placed and sculpted. It also had specs of the jet engine, which is supposed to generate 23 kilonewtons of thrust, and I was able to match that performance with the engine in the game. Throughout the design, I made an effort to be as faithful to the original design as I could. However, I had to take some liberties as the design process went on. First, I noticed in all the documentation that I had that there was no intake for the 2 jet engines. So I decided that, to keep the general shape, I would route the intakes through the nose. Whether this would have been done on the actual airplane, well, I doubt it, but I don't have anything says that it wouldn't have been done either. Second, there was no information on the canard. Normally, I would expect the canard to be more of a stabulator, where the entire surface moved. However, it's 1939, and this may not be a known principle at this time, so, since my favorite of the World War II fighters, the P-38 Lightning, was being developed and built by the same time by the same designer, I made the decision to use a traditional elevator control surface. Additionally, as the design progressed, I noticed that the relationship between the center of pressure and the center of gravity was reversed, with the center of gravity behind the center of pressure. In order to have any hope of this airplane flying, I had to reverse it. I'm going to work under the assumption that the Lockheed team would have solved this in some way, shape, or form as well, so I'm going to try and find a balance that works for this particular model. My solution was first to add a battery as far forward as I could, and then to move the engines from their rearward position to a more forward position. I also added a fuselage tank just after the cockpit and reduced the amount of fuel in the wings. Now this solved the problem, but it caused the interior to deviate from the diagrams that I had available to me. And if you're wondering why the neck of the fuselage looks a little bit bigger compared to the actual design, it's because the engines are now there in order to account for that center of gravity. The addition of forward guns also helped to solve this problem, but their addition alone would not have moved the CG forward enough for me to have left the engines where they were. The addition of a rudimentary cockpit and some paint was all we needed before we took this into the sky to fly for the very first time. This airplane is amazing. Although I suppose I shouldn't have expected anything less from a brainchild of Kelly Johnson. The aircraft is stable. When trimmed up, it'll stay right where you want. And on a flight that was not recorded, I had the CG a little bit too far aft and I got myself into an unrecoverable flat spin, but that's the only issue that I had flying this airplane. As advertised, the airplane is supposed to reach 543 knots, but this version was only able to get up to 373. Now, far be it from me to doubt Kelly Johnson's math. I'm going to say that my number is probably closer to what the real airplane would have achieved, though. That's it. That's the only complaint or note. Top speed isn't as advertised, and if the CG is off, you're going to kill yourself. The airplane is beauteous. It feels like a hot knife through butter when it slices through the air. Every moment is solid. I put a control input in, and I feel like the airplane wants to do exactly what I want it to do. I have little doubt that if this aircraft had entered the Second World War, that it would have been legendary. P-51 level legendary. Would you like to fly this airplane? Let me know in the comments what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already in order to see more videos like this. I'm planning on doing more of these dead airplanes and taking them into the air to see just how good they actually are, or just how bad they actually are. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.